So, people, what's right? So, those of you just tuned in, I need you to share this because I'm going to be discussing now Shaykh Asrar's video refutation or response. It had a bit of a refutation in there, but that was his refutation video. I need you to get this out there. Let's see what this is about, people. So, those of you that know the backdrop of what's been going on, Shaykh Asrar had put up a challenge to me since last year, December last year, saying I wouldn't dare to kind of sit in front of him and discuss this issue on the second coming of Jesus being what I believe to be inaccurate and not established. So I think contrary to his expectation, I immediately took him up for it. He massively underestimated me. So I was straight on it, saying, look, why don't we meet straight away? I'm about to go on a Christmas holiday. I need you to, why don't we meet? Anyway, it took us 3 months of negotiating and chasing him up for him to actually eventually come and meet. Okay, now, I'll be honest with you, I sincerely doubted that he wanted to meet and wanted to have a dialogue. I doubted this, but when he did come, it became a disaster, and I've got my reflections video on that. You can watch it, and do watch it, please. It's my reflection on how the pre-debate discussion went, and I was kind of, in hindsight, at the whole thing, I was disappointed. And I was disappointed with him as well, I'll be honest. But I was disappointed at the whole thing. And I acknowledge my mistakes in there too. I ain't no perfect person, far from it. And I kind of said in hindsight, in the second hour, it's about 2 hours long, I kind of raised my voice and I kind of did these things as well. And it happens, you're a human being, you get frustrated sometimes. So I said, look, I tell you what, I advised Shaykh Asrar, look, why don't you, because at the end of the discussion, Shaykh Asrar said, and he knows he said this, he did say this, it was recorded by him and by us, where he says that, look, Muslims, we're incapable of having dialogue with each other. Only atheists can do things like that, like professors and stuff like that. Us Muslims, we can't do dialogues like that. We got to do the Indo-Pak, the kind of Brelvi Deobandi style. Although this ain't his words, but he did say, the first part is his words, that we Muslims can't do stuff like this, only atheists can do stuff like that. And he also, and I was kind of like very shocked by his on-screen, off-screen behavior, where off-screen he was like really friendly and mellow and sitting back and really polite, and on-screen, as soon as he went live, he became this like kind of, and like, I need you to apologize and I need you to do this. And when we asked him, and once again, he's got this on recording as well, when we asked him afterwards, Sheikh, how come you're like this? What happened? What the hell? And his words, once again, I know he has this obsession with quoting him verbatimly, but he can just check his own recording. But he just said, look, at the end of the day, we're Mulvis and Mulvis do drama, right? So this is the kind of what he said, that, this is what Mulvis do on screen. Now, so in my reflections, I said, look, listen, let's cut the drama out, right? I tell you what, you, Quran, Sunnah reason you've agreed to, give me your best shot. Make a video, show me the best evidences you've got, and fine, I will respond in a video. How does that sound? Now that cuts out the drama. It cuts out you having to do the Mulvi theatre and stuff like this. It cuts out you having to put on an act. And it also cuts out a lot of the hate and playing to the crowd kind of stuff. Now, in what followed after that, we had some text messages exchanged in which I sent him some messages saying, Sheikh, can you cover these questions? Is the coming of Jesus rational or textual? Did the Quran engage this, or did it kind of sideline this issue as it did with the Dajjal and the Mahdi? Why is Jesus coming? Why is he coming? What is the purpose of Jesus coming, and why Jesus? So I put these 4 questions to him, and I said to him, will you also please quote the asanid of these hadith, the chains of these hadith? Otherwise it's pointless. he responded to me in text by saying, you know, you should have discussed all of this with me before. However, I will be responding to all of your questions. He said this in his text message to me. I said, fine, thanks, Sheikh, much appreciated. At the same time, he was asking me, I did say this, I don't know why he was doing this, because on one hand, he was asking me, I need to go, you know, hey, why don't you come down, hang out with me and stuff like this. On the other hand, he was making a post, there's a satanic scholar going around giving all these rulings, which was really just confusing me that I don't... Kya drama hai, yaar? You know, what's going on here? Like, you know, you're acting all pally-pally with me, then you're making all these statements of, you know, you're kind of like this satanic person. Anyway, so he put a date. Now, to help him, last week I gave a prelude, a kind of backdrop to my thinking. I've raised a lot of questions about why do I problematize the coming of Jesus. Is it simply that I have an issue with the hadith? It's not. It's the fact that it has a huge problem with the overall understanding of the Quran, with the established Sunnah and the principles in Islam. I showed that when we look at, and please do watch my kind of prelude to this debate. It is, I think it is, I'll get a thumbnail made for it, but it is it's last week's number 69, I think. So now the thing is, in there I highlight this whole narrative is problematic because it clashes with many Islamic principles. It clashes with the teaching of the Quran. Jesus, when he's going to... I told last week, I mentioned, look, the devil is in the detail. Let's look at the detail of these hadith. They reflect exactly what the Gospels say, that Jesus will come to judge over mankind. He will judge Jew and Gentile, that all animals will become vegetarians, that all evil will rise from earth, that Jesus will force people to become Muslim. He will give them only two choices. You face the sword, or you face death, or you face Islam. All of these things went against the whole teaching of Islam. You know, all this kind of like all animals becoming vegetarian. By the way, which is one of the verses from the Gospels, from the Bible, about how the wolves will graze with the sheep and so on when Jesus comes. Now, I said, look, and I mentioned that people say, how could this creep into Islam? And I said that much greater has happened within Islam. Like, look at within decades of the lifetime of the Prophet, the head of state, like Uthman, is not only assassinated in his home, the city of the Prophet is held under siege for days on end. The body of the caliph is left on the street. Somebody could ask, how could this happen? But it happened. I mentioned the huge splits that happened afterward. I mentioned how many people entered Islam. Surely there were many people who hated Islam. And there were many people who were sincere but carried baggage into Islam. And many of them Christian. The whole of Sham was under the Roman Empire. They embraced Islam. The church was transferred into, it was kind of transformed, into the Umayyad mosque of Bani Umayyah. It is on that mosque minaret then that many believe Jesus will descend. Which once again, all of a sudden, there's no mention of Damascus. There's no connection with Damascus in the Prophet's lifetime. No sooner do the Muslim within decades move their capital to Damascus under the rule of Bani Umayyah. There's all of these hadiths start emerging about the benefits of Damascus and the amazing features of Damascus. I showed how there was a problem with this greater narrative. So do watch my prelude. Watch why I'm saying this. I spoke briefly about witness testimony, about some of the research that has been done on forged false memories, how people actually believe several memories to be true, but they're wrong. Now, okay, so I, shortly after doing that prelude, I sent that to Shaykh Asrar. Okay. So I sent this to him so he had this, and he actually, to my understanding, watched my prelude. Why I feel this? Because he refers to certain things within his lecture that I spoke about in my prelude. So he speaks about the Dawkins debate, which I mentioned, how that made Muslims cringe. He speaks about a few other things, which which I mentioned in my lecture. And at the end of his lecture, he actually speaks about the pre-debate. Now, right, my thoughts and this about this whole, I watched it last night. It's just over an hour long. I have to say, people, first of all, I'm thankful to you, Shaykh Asrar, for taking your time out, for making that video. And the hadith teaches us, and the Prophet taught us, Man lam yashkurin nas lam yashkurillah. Whoever isn't grateful to God. So I'm thankful. That said, now let's be honest. Now that we've done that, let's be honest. This was your challenge. Yeah. I am thoroughly disappointed. Disappointed isn't even the word. That was such an anti-climax. You know, for somebody who we chased for months on end to come and who made this such a challenge. This is unquestionably established in Islam. The second coming of Jesus is by the Quran, Sunnah, reason. It's ma'lumun min ad-din bil-darura, which means it's as bright as day. It's as bright as day. Yeah, I couldn't see the light. I don't know what day this is as bright as. He never went through anything. He just went like, okay, so a summary. Most of what he brought in his 1 hour clip, I had already answered in my prelude. This is hilarious. And he's been through my prelude. He didn't go through any of the questions, generally, not expanding on them, and at least 2 of them he didn't even touch. The purpose of Jesus, why not another prophet? These things he didn't even touch, which he promised. He said to me in his text message, I will be going through I'll do, all these things, I'll mention the asanid. He didn't do any of this. I don't, like, yaar, ye drama kya hai yaar? Ye teja kya hai? Ye teja. What is all of this, yaar? Like, you banged on Facebook so loud that, for God's sake, does he dare sit in front of me and do this? This was your opportunity, and this is what you bring. And now he said, I won't be engaging if he said this to me in a text message again today. He said, if your thing is worthy, I will respond in writing. Is that so somebody else can write it for you? And then he said, oh, but we can still debate, but we can't talk with each other. He said this, like, we got to have, like, your minutes, my minutes. Yeah, I've given you your whole time to respond. Make a video, yaar. Bavar se lado. This whirlwind of a storm that you see, fight with it. Tund lehron se uljo. These waves that you see, entangle yourself in them. Kahan tak chaloge kinare kinare. How long are you going to stay safe and sound on the shore? What's happened, yaar? ¿Cuál es tu problema? What's going on? Who is the lion of Ahl Sunnah? Right? I don't see any of this. I seriously don't. There's a poem in Arabic that one of the scholars said about Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain. He said in Muslim Spain, because at one time there were so many kingdoms that you could walk on foot in one day and cover 3 different kingdoms. So these people used to have all these big titles like Mu'tamid, Al-Mu'tamid, Al-Allah, Al-Mu'tadid Billah, the one who relies, who is the reliance through Allah, the one who is strong by the might of Allah, the one who's... They copied the Abbasids from the East. They used to have these kind of grandiose titles. So he says, وَمِمَّا يُزَهِدُنِي فِي أَرْضِ أَنْدَلُسٍ. And that which keeps me away from the lands of Andalus, Muslim Spain. أَلْقَابُ مُعْتَضِدٍ فِيهَا وَمُعْتَمِدِ these titles of Mu'tamid and Mu'tadid and all these grand titles. It says, Alqabu mamlakatin fi ghayri mawdi'iha. That royal titles where they do not belong. Kal hirrati tahki intifakhan sawlat al-asadi. Like a cat that kind of flares up and acts like a lion. Meow. Lion. Rastafari. This is lion. यार कोई lion नहीं नजर आ रहा है यार. Don't know. What is going on? Let's take a look at some of the things our esteemed Shaykh said within this hour. Some of the things. And I am going to give the Shaykh a chance, because as I did mention, I've got some preoccupations at the end of this month. So I'm hopeful within the next, I'll give him like these next, let's say 2 weeks or so. Hopefully, maybe he will do a detailed video to answer my issues. Inshallah, inshallah. But let's take a look at some of the things he said. Okay, he took a look at the verses. You know, it was interesting. He mentions like these 3 verses in the Quran, all of which he himself concedes there's a different opinion to them. So I don't even see what the point of mentioning them was. He says, okay, there's a verse here which says, you know, بَرْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. But some people say that, you know, it could mean this. Okay, it could mean that, but we don't go with that meaning. But you yourself accept it could mean that. You know, it could mean that. And other people have said that. So he says, you know, Allah says, بَرْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. You know, Allah took him up, raised him to him. You know, so why to him? Well, why? Go to the beginning of these verses. Go to the beginning of these verses. What does Isa begin his kalam with? فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ. When Jesus felt that there was so much disbelief, قَالَ مَنْ أَنصَارِي. He said, who are my helpers, my friends, my supporters? Ilallah. Man ansari ilallah. What's this ilah doing there then? The people said, oh, that ilah just means, yeah, it's just like an extra. It means like indallah. Well, it's the same ilah here. It's the same word. It's in the same context. You know, so, and then the Ash'aris generally don't accept. Most Muslims don't believe Allah has a direction. So you couldn't say raised up to Allah being a direction. And then he concedes himself, look, these have, you could take a different meaning from here. You know, he mentions things like, he goes on about Jesus dying, not dying on the cross. Look, Muslims have never said Jesus died on the cross. Imam Malik Ibn Abbas in Bukhari, Ibn Abbas in Sahih al-Bukhari says that Allah says mutawaffika means I'm giving you death. That Allah gave death to Jesus. The understanding of Ibn Abbas is that Allah gave death to Jesus naturally on earth. So he says, well, look, so if the Romans wanted to kill Jesus and the Jews, but they weren't able to, but they find him dead, so I suppose, you know, they got their goal. Who said he died there and then? Who said that? He didn't have to die there and then. Like, what? I don't understand what this is about. Just because he died a natural death doesn't mean Allah took him off the thing and then he just died. That would be pointless. Why would Allah save him from the crucifixion and then he just dies? Obviously, he doesn't die there. Later on, he died a natural death. And there's one question which he didn't raise. I was surprised, but other people did raise, and I think that's a good question. That where did Jesus go then? I think that's an interesting question. Truth is, nobody knows. But then the truth is, nobody knows where Jesus was before he was 30 years of age. So you see, Jesus comes to Jerusalem at the age of 30, close to 30. Prior to that, where was he? Even Christians don't know. Nobody knows where Jesus was. All these years, where did he grow up? And there's a very interesting, I found it interesting, obviously it's not compelling, there's an interesting BBC documentary on, it's got a provocative title called Was Jesus a Buddhist Monk? And it's interesting that they speak of Buddhist records showing that there was a person who came from the East, the Middle East, and lived with them as a young boy, and his name was Isa. And how the monks kind of taught him, trained him, and things like this. It's interesting because the Buddhists also had a tradition with reincarnation, that they felt that their reincarnation is not like the Hindu reincarnation. So the Atma doesn't go into the other person, but it's almost like a pool table, like one ball hits another and triggers that. So they feel that the death of one person triggers the birth of another. So they the Buddhists had this thing where they would look into the stars and they would have this kind of sign where they feel a great person has been born because somebody has died. Now they have in their records that they felt that there was a great birth in the Middle East. So certain people set off and traveled to find this birth, which kind of ties in with some of the Gospels and the three wise men or the three kings and things like this. It kind of ties in because the question always that Christians ask that who were these wise men, because they never appear again in the story. But it's interesting. I'd advise people to watch that documentary. It is interesting. I'm not saying that is what happened, but it's interesting. It's some research. But nevertheless, let's come back to what Shaykh Asrar was saying. So he mentions these verses and he says, well, these verses I admit can mean other things. So what's the point of mentioning them then? Because I said bring clear proofs from the Quran. Don't bring something and say it could mean this, but it could mean this. He says, oh, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِسَاعَةٍ, but it could mean Jesus, it could mean the Quran, it could mean this, it could mean this. So what's the point of mentioning this? Right? So, and then he kind of goes on about وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ. I've answered this extensively in my prelude. That look, what are you talking about? That verse that you're interpreting, that there are no people of the book except they will believe in Jesus before Jesus' death, before this at the second coming, makes no sense. Because look, that means most of Christians would have already died. Because they've been living from 2,000 years up until whenever Jesus comes. It's only the small batch that will see him. But the verse says there will be no. وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا. There will not be a single Christian and Jew except. So it clashes. Overwhelmingly clashes with what you're teaching. And plus, the reading that I said is supported by Ibn Abbas, by Mujahid, by Shahr ibn Hawshab, by Muhammad ibn Ali al-Hanafiya, the son of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an, by Dhahak. It's even supported by the recitation of Ubay ibn Ka'b. I told you, look, I've given the answers to all of these. And then I was really disappointed with you know, the interesting thing is, by the way, during this video clip, Shaykh Asrar, may Allah bless him, he refuses to use my name now. Yaar, ye game kya hai, yaar? You know, for months on end, he's chasing. When he came to meet me, he was obsessed about what village my great-grandmother was from. You know, not even my grandparents, my great-grandparents. Oh, they're from this village. You're from Druni. You're from... Like, which I'm not, but okay. You know, one of my great-grandparents was from... The point is, like, you're so obsessed when you come to see me. Oh, what is your name? What is this? What is... You make all these posts about me, and now, Hazrat, naam lena bhi munasib nahi samajhte hain. Now he can't even mention my name. Hi. Yaar, ye bewafai, you know. What does Momin Khan Momin say? Jine aap jante the bawafa. You know, the person you understood to be loyal. Jine aap ginte the ashna. The person you thought you knew. मैं वही हूँ मोमिन मुब्तला तुम्हें याद हो के ना याद हो. I am that person, yaar. ये क्या है यार, ये zalim. What are you doing? Kya, you know, sometimes you're obsessed with me. Now you refuse to even take my name. And some reformists have claimed, or maybe in that there's some extra, you know, what is it? Some love and devotion, huh? Otherwise, क्या है ये यार, ये कभी अखियां लड़ाए कभी अखियां चुराए. क्या हो रहा है यार? What's going on here, man? What's he doing? So, and and then Shaykh Asrar, if you're watching this, by the way, Shaykh Asrar, if you're watching this, सर आंखों पे स्वागतम, आपका स्वागत करते हैं यार, स्वागत करते हैं. Right? If you're watching this, when he sat with me, he said, don't misquote me. Don't misquote. He corrected me on a word. On the word, I said something like, he said, does he have the, he said, no, I said, will he have? You have to correct every word. But then in his video, when he wants to speak about the miracles of Jesus, he says, Allah explicitly speaks about Jesus speaking as in the cradle. Yes, so in this, at about 28 minutes, I think about 50 seconds into it, he says, Allah explicitly says that Mary came carrying him and then put him in the cradle and then pointed at him and he spoke. Na munana. Show me in your Quran where it says she put him in the cradle. Ja, leke aa, meri jaan. Where does it say in the Quran she put him in the cradle? Where does it say that? You know, verbatim, yeah. Remember your rule of even one word can't be misquoted. This is acha, so your words can't be misquoted and the words of God can be misquoted. Put him in the cradle. What put him in? Kaun sa Quran hai yaar? Ah, sounds so nice though, yaar. Ah, put him in the cradle. Ah. I mean, if it were permissible to update the Quran, I would have tried. Just for you, for my love to you, Sheikh. But no es posible, yaar. No es posible. But it does, but I give you that, it does sound nice. Oh, put him in the cradle. Right, so, and then within 60 seconds, he mistranslates again. He says, they said, كيف نكلم? How can we speak to somebody من كان في المهد صبيا? How can we speak to somebody who man kana, who is? Na. Kana was. This one not nice, my friend. This is why great mufassirin, yaar, Hanafi mufassirin, tumhare Hanafi mufassirin, like Alusi, the great scholar, he writes that this is past tense. They were referring to the past. Man kana fil mahdi sabiya. How can we speak to somebody who used to be, who was a boy in a cradle? What does he say? How can we say, who is? This one not nice, my friend. This one, don't do this one. So look, this is some of the kind of things that were just shocking to kind of see. And then all this going on, once again about kahal. Kahal is the graying of the hairs. The graying of the hairs. Grey. I don't know about the shades of grey. And how many shades it has, Shaykh Sahib. Hafidhak Allah. Allah aapko salamat rakhe. I don't know about the shades of grey. I don't really read up much on and watch stuff like that. Nah. I don't watch things like that. But I don't know about the graying. But what I do know is the great Ash'ari legend, Mufassir, Fakhruddin al-Razi, in his tafsir highlights, Kahal can begin from 30 years of age. He says, we believe Jesus attained Kahula. Kahula simply means Kamil, fully developed. Like you're no longer developing as a young man, you are now fully developed. There's no fixed age. It doesn't mean when you hit 40, you suddenly become a fully developed man. This is a natural process. Some people become fully developed at 30. Some people mid-30s. Some people 40. So, Fakhruddin al-Razi says, we believe he was Kahal when he was here on earth. This is the great Ash'ari Mufassir. And also I mentioned nobody used that as an evidence during the Salaf's time. Even Fakhruddin al-Razi and all these Mufassirin say that was a scholar by the name of Fadl ibn Hussein al-Bajali al-Nisapuri, who came at the end of the 200s, 280 something he dies, 282 I think. He was the first person to come up with that. Hundreds of years after the Prophet. Hundreds. But you know what? Nice try. You know, game अच्छी खेले आप. बस आदमी गलत चुने. You played it well. You just chose the wrong adversary. That's all. So the point is that, look, and then I don't know why he was making links to Qadianis and stuff like that, but I don't want to say he was, because maybe he did that innocently, so I don't want to kind of just, you know, accuse him of making these allegations, because I'm sure Shaykh Asrar is more knowledgeable than that to say things like that. So, but he speaks about the Qadianis kind of use these verses. Look, my understanding completely destroys the Qadiani concept, because there is no Messiah. Okay, there is no Messiah. So how can Qadiani be a Messiah? Doesn't make any sense. The Qadiani thing is the first thing to fall flat. So look, and then, you know, some of the, he says, look, people are embarrassed by miracles, and how can, I'm just trying to see some of the notes. I mean, look, the thing is that it's a matter of perspective. It's not people are embarrassed, but people see how God operates in this world. And they don't want to understand religion as a mythology. They want to be real with it. So everybody accepts miracles as, what they disagree on is how they actually were. Did they have causes to them? Did they have, like, was it a phenomenon that fits within God's world? Why does it have to be something that goes against the laws of God? Why would God do that? It doesn't make sense to people. But if it had sources, asbab, reasons, causes within this world, it makes sense with God's laws. So I don't think that's necessarily an embarrassment. That's an understanding. Right, so these are the kind of things. He went on to hadith. It's interesting, he once again mentioned about mutawatir going on. And then it's interesting because he himself rejects the mutawatir riwayat of the Shia. Right? He rejects that himself. Why not accept the Shia mutawatir riwayat then? You know, and he says, anybody who says, oh, what about the mutawatir? He talks about my claim, and he says, oh, that's just a stupid question. I'm not going to even answer that, because anybody with knowledge would never answer that. Why not? ¿Por qué? You know, ¿por qué, hermano? ¿Por qué? Why not? Answer it. Like, you accept all the mutawatir of anybody. He says, well, then I asked them, how would they prove that Abu Bakr was the Khalifa? Because it was historical. That Abu Bakr was the Khalifa. What do you mean? Nobody, even the Shia, historically recognized he was in control after the Prophet. How would they recognize Sayyidina Ali? It was a historical thing. But then he says, yeah, but how would you prove that he was rightly guided? That's a value judgment. That's a value judgment. Look, he himself said that mutawatir can't be on opinions. Opinions, like what I think of somebody, can't be mutawatir. But then he's saying, how would you know that Ali was rightly guided? This is our opinion of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. We do believe he was rightly guided, but that's a value judgment. Like I don't get what the point is of bringing this up. Like, what is the purpose? So I find these things really absurd, and once again I find them to be a diversion tactic to avoid the actual thing. He says there's all mutawatir hadith, refuses to include the ikhtilaf, the diversity. What did Ibn Hibban say? The great muhaddith who has his own collection of sahih. He says that all hadith are khabru ahad. Why not be honest with people? Teach people. Many people have said this, other people have opposed it. You see, this is what happens when you teach people everything is black and white and somebody comes along and puts color in it. Everything then falls to pieces. Be honest from the get-go, and then there's no surprises. And he says, look, this thing about bring me the Christians that that converted. Look, let me clarify something. Please watch my prelude again. I said that there were many complex issues taking place after the Prophet. Many complex issues. And hadith don't get documented till at least 100 years after the Prophet. So there's many intricate things going on. Politics is going on. Sieges, attacks on Muslims, physical attacks. The capital gets attacked. Muslims move their capital. Huge civil wars take place. Thousands and thousands of companions and tabi'een die. All this is happening within a few decades of the Prophet. The capital gets moved altogether to Damascus. I mentioned all these kind of things are happening. Many, which was under the Roman rule, many converts do embrace Islam. You've got to remember, people carry baggage. Even he mentions Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh. In Sahih Hadith, we have this transmitted that Abu Hurairah would learn from Ka'b al-Ahbar, who was a Jewish person, Jewish scholar, who embraced Islam after the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Salam, who was in the Prophet's time, became Muslim once again, a Jewish person. Abu Hurairah would learn from these people. That's on record. It's not something... In fact, there's a hadith that Abu Hurairah visited Mount Sinai, spent the whole day at Mount Sinai, and spent the whole day studying from Ka'b al-Ahbar and telling him, and he would tell him. Look, a lot was going on. There was huge... Islam had massively expanded. Islam, all these tragedies were taking place. Corruption had come in. So much wealth came into the Muslim world. A lot of enemies came in. Propaganda was going around. People were making up hadith non-stop. This is a fact. They were making up hadith. Nobody can deny that. They were making up hadith. And then you've got things like false memories. People alive at that time thought honestly that the world was going to end within a few decades. Anas radiallahu an, in a hadith that is in Sahih al-Bukhari, he transmits, and he lives up until 100 Hijri. Right? He lives up until 100 Hijri. He says, right, now check this out. He transmits that the Prophet pointed at a boy who was barely 10 years old and said, this boy will not reach old age except the world will have ended. Now, can you see these people really, like at the time all this is happening, wealth has come in, leadership, corruption, the capital of the Muslim is ransacked, it's kind of attacked, the head of state is murdered, like pious people left on the streets. You've got all these kind of Romans are entering Islam, all these people, Persians are entering Islam, people with hatred are attacking Islam, the grandson of the Prophet is murdered. All these things are happening right before Muslims, right? You've got all of this stuff going on. People thought the world is going to end. It was a fertile mindset for the Messiah concept. So the Messiah concept was a perfect fit. That you think this is bad, yet there's going to be this kind of devil child that's going to come with one eye, and then this great showdown of good and evil will happen, and this whole, in fact, Jesus will come back, and then the world will end. It was, and I want to bring your attention to something. It's interesting that whenever this happens, that the Muslims get under so much attack, because later on, during Bani Umayyah's rule, later on, in the decades that followed, Muslims saw this so suddenly, becoming like a world power, money, power, connections, like influences, wealth, opulence, corruption, oppression, all this going on within their lifetimes. Think about this. Now, whenever suddenly things happen, notice that the Messiah concept comes back. Right now, sorry, somebody's saying about my belly. The belly's bouncy. Okay, right. So the thing is, look. Right now, notice all of these books to do with the Messiah, Mahdi coming back, that have been written in the last 300 years, maybe 400 years as a stretch. Like most of them written in the last 200 to 300 years. That is the books like by Ghumari, Kattani, Shawkani, Anwar Shah Kashmiri, all of these collections, even going to Suyuti, by stretching it, all these collections on the Mahdi will come back. They all came, they were mainly written under colonial rule, or when the Muslims were heading downhill. Because at that time, people started to once again look around and think, why are we suffering? Like, there's no way out. They're losing hope. So all of a sudden, people start writing about the Messiah again. Is that a coincidence? Is it? So I'll leave that to you. So my message to Shaykh Asrar, I'll leave this for now, inshallah, is that, look, if you can kindly... he's asked me in my video to mention these 7 companions, narrations through them. Inshallah, I'll mention the narrations. I was hoping, I had said to him, can you read the chains? And I would correct them and show my perspective on them, but he chose not to do that. He's now said, look, he's going to respond only in writing. So look, I'm just disappointed because I thought, all this hoo-ha, maza nahi aaya. And it didn't live up to the hype. That's all I'm saying. All this kind of like lion, all this, and then kya yaar, all this, and so I'm kind of disappointed. But nevertheless, maybe I'll still extend this if Shaykh Asrar watches this. Shaykh, Hafidakallah. If you can maybe in the next 2 weeks, if you can answer my questions, I'd highly appreciate it. Bahut dhanyavad. Bahut dhanyavad, Prabhu. If you can, please, I'd really appreciate it. I think more than me, you owe it to your followers and people who you created this hype about. If you can respond, tackle my narrative. Don't just tackle this hadithi thing. And don't do, please, as a request. Prabhu, as a request. Don't do kind of sideline digs. Like, let's put that aside. Let's just tackle what we've got at hand. Okay. Tackle this issue. Don't kind of go off, this is the problem with reformists. They say, oh, what about that hadith? Why they don't take the splitting of the moon? They don't... Stay focused. Focus. Hey, stay with me, huh? look into my eyes. Right, so stay focused, Sheikh, stay focused. Look, the thing is, tackle my narrative, please. What I will then do is, I mean, as I mentioned, I did have at the end of this month some preoccupations. As soon as that's over, I will then do a detailed video. Hopefully, I will incorporate whatever I can from what you have said, from what other shuyukh have said, all these other people who tried to say this is kufr, kafir for believing this, others who've said this doesn't make any sense because of whatever evidence is. Shaykh Salik bin Sidna, other people who, by the way, Shaykh Salik bin Sidna, I've responded to him. It's on YouTube from my last week's session. And it's interesting now, the comments, the feedback from other scholars in California was they were saying, well, oh, he made a mistake. They said that he made a mistake about saying that when Jesus comes, there will be no more taklif, liability. That was a mistake. They go, you know, tasamuh. He kind of like slipped up. It was just it's an innocent trip up. I was like, cha. Don't extend this innocence my way. You know, when I do it, it's only inspired by the devil. You know, when these mashayikh do it, what's that thing? That Gali huzur ki to lage duaon jaisi. You know, when huzur swears, it sounds like a dua. Allah. Gali huzur ki to lage duaon jaisi. That's the... But when I do something, there's so coming to this, so that's my message to all these mashayikh, especially primarily Shaykh Asrar. And these mashayikh, by the way, I generally, Shaykh Asrar made a point, and this is, I'm saying this from my heart. Look, I'm being genuine. He said that, you know, I said, he refused to use my name now. Now we're on this no-name basis. Hi, yeah, I'm confused. Confundido. Estoy confundido. I'm a bit confused, yaar, ke is rishte ko kya naam dein? What name shall we give this relationship that we've got? I'm confused, yaar. I stay pondering, looking into the stars. What can I call this relationship? So the thing is, now we're on a no-name basis. He doesn't like to use my name. I'll still use his name, Shaykh Asrar Sahib. Hafidahullah, may Allah protect him and bless him. He made a point at the end. He said that, look, this person now, not Mufti Abu Layth, this person, he said that he wasn't offended at the end of the thing, and now, you know, why is he acting like this? I'm being genuine when I say this. I genuinely, in my heart, for none of you, harbor any hatred. Honestly, wallahi, from my heart, I don't. Yes, why am I spotting your mistakes out like this and stuff like this? Because you began like this. And I'm being honest, like, I actually do think that your tactics are these kind of typical, and I know you don't like this, but typical Brilvi tactics. But you don't like being called a Brilvi. I understand that. I appreciate that. But then, hey, you can call me a modernist, which I say I'm not a modernist. But we're just being honest. This isn't like tit for tat. These are textbook Brilvi kind of typical tactics. You know, like, I think these kind of tactics that you played, making polls, taking digs, even when you came to see me, trying to get me to apologize, doing all of this, then making this talk, going away, not even addressing my issues. It just goes to show that it was all, as you said, it was all drama. So, hence, I feel that, yes, I will spot your mistakes. I will still say to you, do this. But, wallahi, I have no hatred in my heart against you. There's very few people in this world that I actually ever have hatred for. I try to always keep, like, a clean heart. So, yes, I may not like certain people, but I don't hate them. And I'm being honest, and that's the same thing for all these other mashayikh. I definitely don't hate them. Maybe disappointed with some. I'm being honest, I may be disappointed, but I don't have hatred. And I'm being honest, like I would host them, I would accommodate these people, I would pay out of my pocket for, to kind of like serve these people. I would do that still even now. I actually I sent a message via some mutual people to Shaykh Dr. Shadi al-Masri, who called me a probable kafir, or a probable apostate for rejecting the second coming of Jesus. And I said to him that in that message, I said that, look, I'd like to have a polite dialogue with you. So it's an exchange dialogue, and you can record it, we can record it. It doesn't need to be live. We can have a mediator if you like, a mutual person, and we can just have a discussion, but it's got to be a discussion. I'd like to discuss it because you're calling me a probable kafir. Don't you think you owe that much to me? And then I said to him, because I heard he may be coming to Birmingham this year, I offered, wallahi, I said to him in that message, I sent it as a recorded message, like a voice kind of message. I said that I have no ill feelings towards you. Yes, I am disappointed, but I've heard, by the way, that you're coming to Birmingham. I would like to host you, as in, maybe not, I know you're not interested in talks and stuff, but your accommodation at my expense. I would like to pay for all whilst you're here, your food and everything, and that includes your family. And I will see to it that you get adequate transportation and everything, somebody to drive you around. I will do all of that whilst you're in Birmingham. So I extended that to him, offer that still stands for him and his family. And that's, because I don't have any, seriously, I don't have ill feelings towards these people. I'm disappointed. That's different. That why would you call me a kafir and stuff like that? Wouldn't you rather talk to me? But anyway, so the same goes for these colors. Cool. So with that, our message on this discussion ends. Okay.